Hi guys, this is Al from hobbyguitarist.com with my 7 ways to improve guitar playing fast. Without further ado, I'll get straight into this. The first part of this is all about chords and what we could do with those without learning new ones or any new techniques particularly. I'm going to take the very basic A minor chord, open chord here. Okay, so that's 2nd fret D string and G string, 1st fret B string. And what we can do with this chord, rather than just strumming it, okay, is we can play the notes in a different order. So something like this. And there I'm playing up the first 3 strings, back a string, and then down the top 3 strings. Doesn't really matter the order, that's a pretty common one. You can do this any way you like really. You just get different sounds that way. That's one thing to think about. Don't have to play all the strings either. Maybe you just play. There I'm using the pick and these 2 fingers to pluck the G and the B strings. Different strings there. The other thing we can do with chords, I'm going fast here guys, so just pause, wind back as you need to. Really I'm just trying to get these ideas across. So with this chord, we can lift fingers off, place fingers otherwhere, just all around this chord. So if I lift that finger off the G string, so the G string is now open, I get this sound. Different, isn't it? With that chord still in place, I can put my pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Bit Stairway to Heaven, that chord, isn't it? I can go back to my A minor. I can lift that first finger off the B string, so that's now open, and I get this. With that, I can again put my pinky on. I can put my pinky across the top 2 strings, 3rd fret, and I get this. Back to my A minor chord, I can put my pinky on the 2nd fret of the high E string. And then you can start to play around with these things together. So you can kind of do and that's all around the A minor chord. Not much more to say with that. I'll probably do a separate article all about this kind of thing, but just the main thing is take any chord, take E major, do similar things. Okay? You can make it minor by lifting that finger. You can make a major 7th E kind of thing. Sounds a bit ugly, but you can kind of mess around with these things a lot. Any chord you like. C major, so on and so forth. So just take that idea away, play around with it yourself. Yeah, maybe I'll come back in a future article and do a lot more information on that. Okay, we're back with picking and the variations of picking that you can do. I'm going to put some distortion on here just to better emphasize this. So with the pick, you've basically got various options. So with the pick here, I can either pick very flat down that way, or I can tilt it like that, so I get more of an edge-on approach. Most of the fast players will tell you to angle that pick a little bit that way. You can also angle it with the strings or against the strings, so you've got that kind of movement or you've got that movement. Now all of these produce slightly different sounds. Best demonstrate, right? So if I just do some sort of standard picking thing here, that's pretty standard, but if I really dig in, to the strings with the pick, holding it at a slight angle. Okay, I'm starting to get these false harmonics and things. It's getting a lot more aggressive. A run like this perhaps. You know, I can make it sound very percussive by just attacking it with the pick at an angle. Also with the pick, if you, this is actually a specific technique, but I'm not going to cover it now, but just take this as read. If I do something like this, and here what I'm doing is I'm tilting the pick, so it just glides across. I messed that up, didn't I? You see, that sounds a bit more flowy. If I pick that, I'm exaggerating it, but it's a very different sound to it. There's you get the percussive sound again. Or if I just very gently pick it with the very tip, not so aggressive, right? Same with the fingers. If I'm a finger player, I might do. I don't play much with my thumb, but you can kind of dig in, pull it a little bit more. And again, I'm getting different sounds there. I probably couldn't get that twangy sound with the pick, not without a lot of work anyway. Again, you can caress the strings. So this is all just to demonstrate that the way you attack the string will actually have a difference. So from your fingers to the strings to the pickups, through the guitar to the amplifier, it's all getting driven from that initial contact with the string with either fingers or pick. And you will get different sounds. I just realised that I needed to show you something called tremolo picking as well, which is I always think of it as the kind of the Godfather sound. So instead of playing something like, I could kind of do this with the pick. So I'm constantly going, right? So I get this kind of sound. That's called tremolo picking. It's not this kind of tremolo, it's this. And you can see why I call it the Godfather sound. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. Back shortly. Okay, so I've taken the distortion off for this next bit, so we can kind of hear it a little more clearly. Talking about legato, now I need to warn you, I'm not actually massively good at this. I put a video in there of Joe Satriani, who's pretty amazing at this stuff. Alan Holdsworth's another, unbelievable. But anyway, the whole idea of legato is, rather than being a percussive sort of sound, you're kind of getting this, it tends to be full of little trills and pull-offs and hammer-ons, to get a kind of more flowing, smooth sound. So instead of where I'm picking, you don't pick very much. You might pick the odd note just to keep the momentum going, but it might sound something like this. Right, so it's got very, it's pretty rubbish, isn't it? Very cascadey. See? And it involves a lot of these kind of little shapes and movements, so kind of thing. Now, as you can see, I'm really not that good at it, but this idea of legato is one of expression. You can throw it in, so you're just doing a little lick like this, perhaps. Bit more of a relaxed, flowy sound. Now, slides are something I personally use a lot. So let's take just a nice little 3-note combinations. Yeah. And I just did it without thinking, you see. So you might just play. And what about if you went? I think you'd agree that's a bit more expressive. All these little slides. Very, very different to. In fact, that sounds very stilted, but it might work over the music you're playing. And the whole thing here is about expression and dynamics. Some ideas to work with. Now, slurs, I'm sure I'm not using that phrase right, but I use it to describe something. So if you take a nice blues lick, for example, right? A slur might be, right? So I'm very quickly playing the note before, sometimes after, I guess, but before the one I really want. So, okay. You might do it a few times. Another good example. So, I've done a couple there. There's a slur downwards, you see. Used a lot, jazz, blues, that kind of stuff, bit in country as well. I call them slurs. I'm sure I'll get told that I'm wrong, but that's the kind of thing I mean. Okay, another set of ideas there. Okay, and now we look at what I've called milking the string for everything it's got. Let's just kick straight off. Let's play C for a change. So, you might have a set of notes that goes something like this. I don't know, something like that. It all sounds a bit straight, doesn't it? Okay, so what I'm talking about here is milking that string. So instead of just vibrato, so what I'm doing, I'm wobbling the string there just with that finger. Right, you can do it like that. Some people shake their wrist about. I find that quite hard, actually. When you've got a lot of overdrive on, just pressing the string in and out, especially on power chords, it really works with overdrive. But you can see it's just very gently changing the pitch. If you listen to that again, yeah, or you've got all sorts of varieties here. So something like, or speed it up, slow it down. Just depends what expression you want to get out of it. I keep using that word all the time, but that's really what we're about here. Okay, so string bending is a massive topic, and I'm just going to introduce it here. The typical blues scale will have some typical bends in it. So you see, and I'm putting vibrato on there as well, just to express it. String bends. Right, you can do it That's a different expression too. Or even, alright, so you've got all these different varieties, you know, sort of. So vibrato as well there. And all these things are giving you more expression. Just one thing on bending, don't try and do it with one finger, especially the pinky. Support it with other fingers. The more control you've got, the more expressive you'll make it. Muting is another thing. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. So let's take this. Okay. Now you can mute it with a. You just kind of rest your hand. You've got to experiment with this, okay? So, and you can mix it up. Right, so you get these different muting things. The other thing you can do is actually do it with your left hand. It's quite curious. You can kind of go, yeah, try this. Right. I'm muting these strings and just playing the top one. Yeah. Well, I played them there, but right. Used a lot with this kind of thing. You can also lift the finger. If you want to get a percussive sound. Used a lot in funk, that kind of thing, actually. So. And all I'm doing actually is lifting up that set of fingers. I am actually muting slightly with my right hand as well because I don't want harmonics if they're there. They're not actually. So see? But I like a bit of control. Right? Another kind of muting. You put all these things together and you're starting to get some expressive stuff. Legato there, horrendous vibrato on a chord. All these different things give you expression. I'm going fast. Feel free to wind back and review any of this. And I'll be back shortly with the next section. Walking the string. Okay, and now we'll talk a little bit about rhythm. So in a standard, you know, 4-bar type thing, there's, you know, a 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got single notes, right? You've got two notes, so in that same rhythm, you've got 1 and 2 and 3. So 2 there. 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 1 and 1 there. Okay, and then you've got threes. Now this is where it starts to get tricky. I'm not pretending to be an expert, but this is the kind of thing you can do. So I may have to slow this down in a bit, but threes, you know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 notes instead of 1 note, 2 notes. I then mix them up. Right, you got 4 notes as well, so 1, 2, 1 and 2 and that's 3s again. You got all these different rhythms, and you don't have to play 3 notes either, or 6 notes. You know, you don't have to do that. You can kind of miss beats or go off the beat. So, you know. Yeah, that kind of thing. Mess about with the rhythm. Yeah, it's all very well being, yeah, I can't do it. Some guys going all the way up the neck. Great. But once you've done that a couple of times, it's you know, been there, done that. The whole idea here is to sound musical and expressive. At least it is in my book. So use these rhythms together with everything else just to get some different sounds. That's rhythm. Okay, now we're going to look at different patterns. You know, challenge your comfort zone, all that kind of stuff. Because, and I'll say this straight away, I am extremely guilty of this. Playing things on the guitar that you practiced, you know, the scales. Major scale. That's fine, but that isn't music. That's just a tool for making music within. And the other thing is that in the quest for speed, which seems to be the thing now, you make up patterns on the guitar and just repeat the pattern over and over again, and it sounds impressive for a short time, but it isn't musical necessarily. I'll just do this by example, really. So playing different positions as well, but I'll tell you what, I'll keep this simple. Let's play B, pentatonic scale. The kind of thing I'm talking about here is rather than, which sounds pretty good, but you know, would you ever think of going, and there what I'm doing is I'm playing that and I'm skipping to the third string away. I'm playing octaves there, down to the next string. Yeah, don't worry too much about what I'm actually playing. Well, what the idea is, I'm skipping strings. I'm playing things that aren't necessarily comfortable for the fingers to do, because you're used to going, oh, I could do that, but can I go, yeah. There's a famous song, the Red Baron. It's in G actually. So it goes. How's it go? Right, you got the octave there, and then the other bit it does is, and that you're starting a lick with your middle two fingers. Not something that comes naturally. You know, you either start with your kind of third finger or first finger, but here you're starting here. Yeah, so the point here is that sounds good. Would you necessarily have thought of that because of you just going, no. Get all these. Play two notes at once. Yeah, so maybe I've got to go. You know, there's a big stretch for me, but up and down the strings. Just play things that are unnatural. And they're only unnatural because you're not used to doing it. You're used to going up and down scales, or the little licks you've learned. Mess it up. Use your ears. Okay, for this last section, I'll put the distortion back on, and we're going to take a look at other techniques, noise, radical stuff. You know, this is It's all good stuff. So, whammy bar. I've got one on here. So you can, Jeff Beck style, he doesn't play with quite so much distortion, I don't think. That's instead of bending. It's a different sound, you know, but you can do mad things, which I'm not terribly good at, but the likes of Eddie Van Halen, Steve Vai, I've seen him live, and the guy's crazy with a whammy bar, you know, sort of all this kind of especially if you get distortion going. I'm not loud enough to get distortion going here. But you can do all these things, you know. Let's try this. It's just a harmonic and you bend it around. False harmonics are another one that are just lunatic. Yeah, Joe Satriani, that kind of thing. But it's quite subtle too. If I had a cleaner sound, so I can engineer a cleaner sound. Right, so just shimmery chords. Be more subtle with it. It's just another expression tool with the guitar. Now that's whammy bar. We've got string noise. Or you can kind of, if you mess around with this, like this, very Steve Vai-esque, or the, you know, the pick down the strings, all these kind of noises, or if you call it untidy playing. Gary Moore does that kind of thing a lot, so he kind of does it. When it's loud, these strings will just start ringing out, making all sorts of noise. Gary Moore made a big deal of using and controlling that, getting feedback even, and then using the whammy bar to massage that feedback. All good stuff. I'm not showing you necessarily how to do things here, just ideas really. And the last one, a favourite of most rock guitarists, is the squealy. And it might sound something like this. Often accompanied by vibrato. And the way I'm doing that, as the pick, I'm kind of touching, I'm letting my thumb touch the string. They call it pinch, it's not really a pinch, it's, so instead of, because I've got very little of the pick out from my thumb, as the pick goes through, that thumb touches the string, but it doesn't stay there because that'll just mute it. So if I just let it stay there, I'll try, so it just mutes it. So, and the last thing about squealies, which are huge fun, if you ever listen to Billy Gibbons, you know, ZZ Top. You tend to get them better on the bridge pickup, by the way. Try this, just play a single note. There, let's pick E down here and move up and down the string. You will get different harmonics at different points. Sounds like an octave, doesn't it? Well, remarkably, That's because you're actually 12 frets above that note on the string. Not the 12th fret of the neck, 12 frets above the note. That's where you get that octave harmonic, one Steve Lukather uses a lot, for example. So my message here is, if you want to get squealies, if you've got loads of distortion on, you'll probably get them. But the way to control them is to know where you are on the string, and hence where you're going to get the fast harmonic. But I'm not really getting one there. Now I am. Go up 2 frets, I'm probably going to move the pick a bit. Okay, that's it. That's the false harmonic is another name for them. False harmonic, pinched harmonic, squealy. I like squealy because that's what they are. Hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you've got specific elements of this you'd like me to dig into further, just leave me a comment and I'll do a more in-depth article, maybe go into a little bit how to do things. You know, not pretending I'm an expert here, but I've been playing a while. I know a few of these things, even if I can't execute them very well. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.